Blanca Sullivan, who fought this battle for 3 years. It was a David and Goliath battle as a result of her son being murdered by state employees. The Sullivan couple,
Joseph John Sullivan, born September 21st, 1979, was a beautiful child. He was a beautiful human being. He made some mistakes along the way, but he grew up in a Christian home, and I know where he is today. Joseph Sullivan did not commit suicide. He was murdered at the hands of the California Department of Corrections.
They called me on June 5th, and I said, "Who is this?" He says, "This is Cortez with the Chuckwalla Valley State Prison." "Well, I want to tell you, he passed away." My son's 6'2". He's stronger than a bull. He doesn't just pass away. And then the next day, I got a letter from him. He wrote this on June 1st. He said, "Dad, I want to make up for all the bad times we had. I want to start new. We're going to have a good life together. I want to pick up and go forward. I love you so much, Dad." Then in the letter to his mother, he said, "Don't send any money. Don't send any letters. By the time you get this letter, I'll be the heck out of this prison and over in Donovan in San Diego."
Reverend Andre Shumake. His nephew, Anthony Shumake, died of a simple tooth infection. I would just like him to bless our gathering so that we can be able to commune our messages, the very sad messages of all the wrongful deaths taking place in California's prisons.
It's unfortunate the purpose for which we have gathered here, but it is a reality in California where there is a pattern and practice of medical neglect within this prison system. It's not a mistake. It's just not something that happens periodically. It's something that goes on a daily basis, and had I not been impacted through the loss of my own family member, I wouldn't have realized the seriousness and just how embedded this problem is within this prison system here in the state of California. So, as Cayenne said, we've come today to be a voice for the voiceless. There's so many families that are suffering in silence. So many have lost their loved ones, and we're just praying that on today that something will be said, something will be done to inspire the legislature to do something about this system.
We've won a lawsuit, a wrongful death lawsuit, and it's a banner day, a time for celebration, because it's almost impossible to win a wrongful death lawsuit in California's corrupt courts. Then we're going to hear from other people whose loved ones died suspiciously, who were treated with derision, and who still don't have any answers months and years later. Attorney David Springfield is here.
This case that we just concluded started with an investigation. It started with Dan Sullivan calling me on the phone asking, "Please look into what happened to my son." One day they get a letter that said, "Mom, I'm so happy I'm coming home in a few days." And the next thing that happens is, "Come and pick up your son's belongings. We have them ready in a box." The prison is supposed to keep records and keep logs for how hot it is. They're heat logs. These heat logs show it's a comfortable 80 degrees. Every time, every day. No matter how hot it is in the summer, no matter how hot it is inside the prison. Joseph was put on psychotropic medications without good reason, we believe, and he basically was in a cell alone for 7 weeks without getting outside, not a single minute, in 120 degree heat. It was that hot day in, day out. When you're on these medications, there are psychotropic heat risk medications, you're not supposed to be in that cell. And actually, the department themselves, in other records, in the Coleman case, they say There are no problems here. You don't even need to investigate what happens here because we are a desert institution and people are not here that have any problems, mental problems. This is not the truth.
Attorney Abraham Goldman.
Joseph Sullivan was tortured to death at Chuckawalla Prison. Thankfully, because his family rallied together and not only had the will and the faith to carry on after his death, they had the will and the faith to carry on this lawsuit. And this has been successful in making some changes. People that come forward are the only ones that can stop this from continuing.
My name is Deborah Lonergan, Dr. Lonergan. I'm a forensic psychologist with over 20 years of experience of working in the mental health field. I believe that CDCR is directly responsible for the suicide of Joseph Sullivan. I could believe that CDCR has been and continues to be deliberately indifferent to the medical, mental health, and custodial needs of inmates, and that Joseph's case is an indictment of the malicious maltreatment of inmates incarcerated in the CDCR. The system must be reformed, and it must be more humane, and we cannot continue to murder persons incarcerated in the state of California.
Hello, my name is Pastor Ramos, grandfather of Joseph Sullivan. I'm a prison minister. I minister in the prison, and I know how they work. For 14, 15 years I've been working in the Chino prison. And I know all the prisoners to come to Chino, many of them been in Chuckawalla. Chuckawalla is like being in hell. So many inmates, and they got them, Pastor, I don't know what to do. What do you mean? They said, I'm driving crazy. Why are you driving crazy? Why? They said, they forced me to get some pills to just drive me more crazy than what I am.
They're fighting for the people whose loved ones haven't died yet. Richard Thomas. His brother Greg was killed at Lancaster, and we have no idea who did it, who his cellmate was, what happened. The California Department of Corrections has simply refused to give him any information.
Over the last 5 months, I've researched and educated myself and come to believe that behind the walls that house inmates at all levels, torture and deaths are being carried out and are orchestrated by the law above the law. Some of America's most wanted are getting away with it.
None of these people had a death sentence, but any sentence to prison is a potential death sentence. And I really have a problem with that because it's done in my name, by my government. Linda Ward, she worked for the Department of Defense for 20 years. Her sister had a minor addiction problem. She was in prison at Chowchilla Institute for Women. She was due to be released in a few days, and she died suddenly and suspiciously. A year later, Linda has no answers.
Something needs to be done. Someone should be held responsible for these murders. People don't come forward when their people are in prison like this because people live in fear, because that's what we live in. And we need to shake the fear and start coming together.
When you want to go to the doctor, you have to write this slip out and give it to the deputy. And if the deputy don't like you, you may not get your slip sent in. You may be sitting in that cell. What I know, doing what I do now, that there is more money in the problem than there is in the solution.
We've heard from people on the inside, the outside, family members. Wouldn't be right without a former inmate who has turned his life around. Quanah Brightman is the son of Professor Lehman Brightman.
I really want to ask the Creator, Tokashila, what we call God. I'm a Lakota. I'm a Menikaju, a member of that great nation. And I want to ask the Creator to give blessing to all of you families who've been directly hurt by this ugly system.
Theresa Vaughn.
There's many family members here today who are speaking about the loss of someone that they love dearly. And as Richard said in the Serenity Prayer, it takes a lot of courage to come out here. It takes a lot of strength. And we just have to have the wisdom to know which battles to choose to fight. And if we touch somebody's heart today that maybe works inside this building, we will never know. But at least we were here to try to make a difference, to try to stand up, to try to be the voice for those people inside who do not have their constitutional rights and their constitutional voices